time to review the Halloween series. Something I've been looking forward to for quite some time, because any of you that have known me for longer than 5 minutes over this past year are aware of the fact that Michael Myers is my favorite slasher, so this was really exciting, even though this franchise is a roller coaster. Two little asides before we begin. I would first like to say that since Michael Myers is my favorite slasher, I like to see accurate portrayals of him and whatnot, and of course that means I was probably a little bit more harsh and critical on some of these films than I would be in other franchises. But, as a full disclaimer, if you have a different opinion of these films than I do, totally cool, doesn't mean you're an idiot, anything like that. It just means that I had a different opinion of these movies than you did. These are just my views on the movies that I saw, what I took from it. That's it. So without further ado, let's get started. I'll try not to linger too long on some of these, but I am probably going to, on some of the ones that made me angry, go off on a rant here and there, so I apologize in advance. But let's start off with Halloween 1, which is a classic. I love it. I love every single aspect of it. It's great. It's become so iconic. It's just amazing just how much it's worked its way into popular culture and just become such a huge part of the horror genre and has affected so many people in so many different ways. Yeah, it's just amazing. So I absolutely love it. Complete horror classic. What's not to love? So Halloween 2, also pretty good. I really enjoyed this one as well. It has a lot more kills in it, and the kills would get pretty creative, which I appreciated. It wasn't just choking or with a knife as in the first one, so that was a nice change of pace. There was only two small gripes I had with this film. Majority of it, loved it, great follow-up. This is where I should have said earlier, there are going to be spoilers in this review series, but you know what, these films have been out for a long time, but heads up anyway, gonna be spoilers. This is the film that introduces Laurie and Michael Myers as siblings, which I did not care for. I've never really liked that plot point. I didn't like the idea of having Michael have a reason for his killings, anything like that. Like, his whole thing is supposed to be a mystery. Why did he stalk Laurie and her friends? Who knows? I don't think we'll ever really get a clear answer on that, and we shouldn't. We shouldn't really have a clear answer for Michael's motives or anything of the sort. So, unfortunately that meant that plot point got carried over to every single sequel after that, except for the 2018 one, but it is what it is. The other thing I didn't care for was that in one scene in the school, Michael wrote Samhain on the chalkboard in a classroom, and it's like, Michael Myers shouldn't be writing anything. We shouldn't know anything at all that's going on inside his head. Again, complete mystery, let's keep it that way, let's not do that stuff, and of course they mispronounced the word in the movie, which is fine. I can kind of forgive, just the doctors and stuff like that saying it that way, but there's another point in the series where they say it and say it wrong, and that person had no excuse. We'll get back to that. But yeah, Halloween 2 was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. I love the fact that Michael is actually a really smart slasher. He cuts the phone cords, the phone lines, and he makes pretty much every single car's tires flat, I'm pretty sure. You don't get to see every single car in the parking lot, but it's pretty much implied, and I love that. It's like, okay, you can run, you can hide, but you can't drive away. Michael Myers is keeping you in the hospital. So, yeah. Halloween 2, good follow-up. Halloween 3 is where the series diverged for one movie and tried to do something different, which I appreciated. I don't blame them for trying to make it an anthology series, even though it didn't work, but this film was weird, though. I didn't quite fully get why this company that was making these masks wanted to kill kids and turn them into bugs and snakes and stuff like that. It just was like, oh, it's gonna be a good prank or something like that. I'm just, what? I guess they're trying to imply it's some kind of ritual that was going on since way, way back in the day, thousands of years ago. But at the same time, it's like, okay, if there was some kind of need for this ritual to happen, like, I don't know, there'll be a good harvest or good fortune or something like that. But no, it's just like, for shits and giggles, why not? Why not kill some kids for the fun of it? Because, ugh. Not to mention with all these people getting killed at this factory and going missing or whatnot, don't you think the government would be like, we need to check this place out? What's going on with this mask making company? I don't know. And the relationship between Ellie and the doctor was a little creepy to me. Although near the end it's revealed that she's really a robot too, but then there's the argument of whether she was one all along or she became one later. I don't know. This one's a little bit of a mess. Again, appreciate that they try to do something different, but yeah, it didn't fully work for me, but I can see why some people like this movie. It's not bad. It's just very, very strange. So that brings us to Halloween 4, back to Michael Myers and staying on Michael Myers for the rest of the franchise. I probably should go through these sequels also by rating the masks and the look, because they vary quite a bit from movie to movie. Now, the first two Halloween movies, looks were 10 out of 10 on point. Great. Halloween 4, oh my god, the mask. It's not good. In my opinion, it's not the worst. Some people think it's the worst. It kind of grew on me over the course of the movie, but it's not great. It's actually weird because I've seen recreations of the Halloween 4 mask by like Trick or Treat Studios, and I've seen it it's for sale at conventions and whatnot, and that actually, the recreation of the mask actually looks better than the one that is in the movie. I don't know why. So Halloween 4 is what I like to summarize as dumb fun. I know a lot of people really, really like this one. I did find some parts of it ridiculous, like the freaking gang of rednecks that are gonna hunt Michael Myers down, they end up shooting someone else who's not him, and it's just like, what? But it is appreciated that in this one the police really take it seriously, that he's come back and they hole up in a house and try to defend against him and everything of that sort. But then there's times where they're all escaping on a truck and Michael Myers is holding on to the top of the truck trying not to fall off, and it's so silly. But I will give it props that I had a blast watching it. For any of the ridiculousness that was going on, I was thoroughly, thoroughly enjoying myself. This was a blast. Except for the ending, which I like to regard as dumb fanfic shit. Like, what the hell was that? I mean, Jamie touches her uncle's hand for a second and all of a sudden his rage has transferred onto her, so now she's gonna follow in his footsteps. It's stupid. So then there was Halloween 5. And Halloween 5 was actually one of the harder ones to sit through. I didn't think so, because going in I kind of had a general idea of the synopsis. So I expected, okay, with all these crazy ideas going on, and, you know, Jamie being like a conduit for Michael for like half the film, reacting violently to whenever he kills somebody, was just, again, what I regard as bad fanfic shit. Even all that I thought would at least be entertaining, and it's not, because for the first half of the film, Michael barely does anything. Okay, he kills a few people, but it's like very spread out. I don't know. It just wasn't that interesting, and even when things did pick up halfway through, I don't know why I wasn't invested. I guess I was just so done with this, but it doesn't make sense because, again, even through some of these bad sequels, I was on board for the ride. I don't know what it was about Halloween 5 that made it feel like it was dragging along. I will say, I can't explain it, but I hate the mask in Halloween 5. I know that's an unpopular opinion because a lot of people say, well, at least it's better than Halloween 4's. I disagree. I don't know why, but I just hate the way the mask looks in Halloween 5. It's like, the hairline looks like it's receding, so Michael looks like he's becoming a balding old man, even though he's supposed to be like, what, mid to late 30s? And the neck is too wide and huge, and the nose is tiny, and the lips are really, I can't explain it. I know it's not, I guess, subjectively the worst mask in the series, but I personally just hate it. I can't fully explain why. I don't like it. It should have been entertaining because there's one part in this where Michael actually hunts down Jamie with a car. It's so insane. And I should be like, oh my god, this is hilarious. And I was just like, oh, just run her over already. I'm done. I don't know. And being caught in the trap in the end by Loomis, it was just like, really? Michael's smarter than that. In 4 and 5, he acts like an idiot sometimes. I'm just... buddy, you're smarter than this. Don't do this. Also, as a final note, I would just like to say that the ending of Halloween 5 also pissed me off. Actually, maybe even more so than the end of Halloween 4. Because, one, Jamie asks, can I see? And Michael actually obliges her. He takes his mask off and looks at her, and he actually sheds a tear. I'm like, dumb, dumb, dumb. Michael Myers does not talk. Michael Myers does not cry. You cut that shit out. For reasons I can't fully explain, Halloween 5 was one of the hardest ones to watch, but at least it didn't make me angry like 6 did. I know this is gonna piss some people off because I know there's become a following for Halloween 6, and might get mad for me saying some of the things I'm about to say, but it's just my opinion, okay? And I've watched both versions of it. I watched the theatrical version and the producer's cut. The producer's cut broke me. It was so bad. Not that the theatrical version was not bad, because it was bad, but the producer's cut was even worse. I thought by watching the producer's cut, I'd be like, okay, maybe this special cut was the way it was going to be originally envisioned, and therefore maybe all the extra editing and stuff they did to fix it in the theatrical version, maybe that was all bad choices and the original vision of the script was better. No, theatrical version's better actually. Stick with that if you're gonna watch this film. I'll just start with Michael's mask and look in this. It's... okay, the mask is okay. The ears are too big and the hair's a little wild. It kind of looks like, you know, old guy trying to look hip. But it's not that bad. It's definitely way better than 4 and 5, so that's a point in its favor. The problem is, they brought the guy back who played Michael in Halloween 4, and I'm sure he's very talented, nice guy, and great actor, stuntman, whatever, but he was not the right fit for Michael. For starters, when Halloween 6 came out, this guy was 54, and you can kind of tell his hands are very old, he moves like an old guy, he stands like an old guy. There are times when Michael's just standing there, and he's just got that paunch and almost like a little bit of a slouch or even push forward of like an old dude, you can tell. It was kind of distracting, which is a shame because, again, the mask did look pretty good. So, he just was not the right fit for this. And furthermore, the story is awful. Like, they're trying to introduce this cult of Thorn, and that's the reason why Michael is doing what he's doing. First of all, if the Man in Black is trying to cultivate the power of Thorn and try to turn these kids into killers who will kill their families and therefore harness that intense power for himself, is he all doing this in Haddonfield? Because I think that would be a noticeable pattern of kids every, I don't know, generation starting to kill all their families. Wouldn't the police or somebody take notice of this? You know, kind of like in It, you know? No, nobody notices this. I hate the Cult of Thorn for several reasons. One of the obvious being, like, obviously shouldn't have an explanation behind what Michael does what he does. He's inexplicably violent, so he kills people while being, you know, pulled away and trapped by the cult, and yet he's free still to walk around and kill the midwife to Jamie and everything like that. And not to mention the fact that they want the next of kin of Michael's to be killed on Halloween. That's the whole point, right? Why it's done on Halloween, that's significant. So why are they letting Michael run after Jamie and her baby and everything like that? It makes no sense. And if you're supposed to kill his next of kin, why is the baby important? Why do you have to have a baby thing or whatever going on? Even if Michael had to produce a kid, why did it have to be Jamie? Why did he have to have an incest baby? What the fuck? And how did they talk them into that? How did they get Michael to do that? To say, okay, we're gonna have control enough over Michael Myers, this crazy killer who ends up destroying everything that they're doing at the end anyway. just to go along with the plan up until now. Like, is this part of the spell on him? Did they have some kind of psychological hold? If that's the case, that didn't work very well, because again, he killed Jamie at some point, and it's just, okay. In the producer's cut, she survives the initial attack by Michael, but then she gets shot in the head later by the Man in Black, who's like, your purpose is over. Again, if they didn't need the baby. They could have used Jamie as the sacrifice. I can't. This is so dumb. Now, there is not to say there were some cool parts, like again, in the surgery or whatever room when Michael bursts in and kills everybody in there with the flashing lights. I didn't really care for the flashing lights so much because it distracted from the action, but it was pretty badass, I'll give him that. And there's this Terminator-like music that plays when Tommy Doyle sees Michael's going down the hallway, and he sees him, he's trying to bust open the door with a fire extinguisher, and there's this really badass music playing, and sadly I can't seem to find it on either version of the soundtrack, and that pisses me off. That always seems to happen to me. I watched the producer's cut of this, and I thought that would help things, and it does add a few removed lines from certain scenes to add, I guess, a bit more clarity and context, which did help. It's just the ending is so much worse. The producer's cut ends, it's like a focus on the cult's sanctuary, and Kara's on the cutting block, and her son's gonna be chosen to kill her, and Michael's gonna kill his child. Why they both, I don't know why they both have to do it at the same time, I guess for Michael's curse to pass on to the kid. It's ridiculous. All that happens is Tommy Doyle holds up the cult leader at knife point, the Man in Black essentially, leads him out, and then there's this confrontation. He sets up a bunch of these rune stones around him as Michael starts to head towards him down the hallway, and to complete the ritual, Tommy Doyle has to say a line. Actually, just one word, and he says, Samhain. It's the pronounced Samhain, and you should know better, sir. It's especially a spell where you're supposed to pronounce things correctly. I'm pretty sure any context of any story you'll go into, like pronunciation of spells is extremely important. Like, how do you fuck that up that badly? And then, for some reason in the producer's cut after that happens, the Man in Black then switches places with Michael Myers, and Michael Myers walks away as the Man in Black, and then Loomis has the symbol on his arm and he screams, and I was just like, what the fuck just happened? What the fuck just happened? This movie is a mess. It broke me. I even by its own internal logic, it doesn't make sense. Maybe it could have worked if the cult was a little bit more sinister and smart, and you could really get an idea of them controlling Michael, and that it was like they were the puppet masters and whatnot. If they really fleshed that out, you see Michael maybe even struggling to obey them and stuff like that, but no. It's all like shock value bullshit, and they are idiots. They're complete fucking idiots, especially in the theatrical version where they all get slaughtered by him anyway. So, this has never been Michael's character, to just make him rape his niece. And let me just tell you, watching the producer's cut that had a few cut scenes, and we see Jamie bound on that same rock that Kara and Michael's baby's about to be slaughtered on. She's on that block, and she's just like very pathetically acting like, oh, Uncle Michael, don't hurt me. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Is that how you would act when you're goddamn serial killer uncle with a supernatural curse on him is about to fucking rape you? Is that your reaction? It was sick. It was honestly sickening to the point, it's just like, it was just for shock value. I'm convinced all it was. Just like, oh, we're disturbing. This is a fucked up cult here, you guys. Michael is this fucked up that he's gonna kill his own baby that's a product of incest. It's just like, fuck you. That's never been Michael Myers, alright? Michael Myers might be the embodiment of pure evil, but he doesn't do this shit. This has never been his character anyway. He might be evil, but he actually still has something of a personality to him, and this has never been in his character. Never! Like, okay, if he had some violent sexual tendencies in the other movies, okay, sure, maybe, but never before. And even so, it's like, again, how do they get him to do this? I don't know. How do they freaking say, go fuck your niece? The one you've been trying to kill all this time. You know, if Michael had killed her in 4 and 5, that would not have been possible. They would not have been able to have that incest child to be killed. Like, if it had to be Michael's baby, why couldn't it have been any woman he could have fucked? Why did it have to be Jamie? Why did they have to kidnap her too? I don't get it. Like, again, as I said before, if they wanted his next of kin to die, they should have just killed Jamie. There's no... It doesn't make sense. Again, I don't mind disgusting, I don't mind truly depraved stuff in a movie if it makes sense for the character, but it doesn't make sense for Michael. It just doesn't, and it pisses me off that they got Michael's character that wrong. And I know in the 2018 film, the baby that Michael walks past was just a stand-in because that was supposed to be the wife's husband laying on the couch there, so that was a last-minute replacement, but I still like to believe that that scene is a massive fuck you to Halloween 6, as I like to say that quite a bit. Fuck you, Halloween 6. Okay, so a mere 3 years after Halloween 6, they decided, hey, you know what, maybe we should reboot the franchise because that was a mess. And so they made Halloween H2O. And they brought back Jamie Lee Curtis, which was a great idea because she is amazing. She is a powerhouse and she really carried this movie. Michael's look in this is kind of half and half for me. It looks okay. The problem is he's a little lanky and the coveralls don't seem to fit him quite right, and the masking has a long neck and it's fitted too closely to his face. You can see his eyes perfectly clear through the mask almost at all times, and that should not be. You should very rarely see Michael's eyes behind the mask. It should be mostly darkness you see there. So to be able to see them so clearly just felt wrong to me. And also the mask's hair was a bit messy. Again, it looked like a 40-year-old trying to be hip. But not the worst look, but I just, you know, yeah, wish that the mask wasn't so snug. That was my biggest complaint. This was a lot of fun. This movie obviously was fun because it had Jamie Lee Curtis in it. She does a great job carrying this film, but for the most part, it hits all the decent notes of a fun slasher film. It's nice to have the, you know, a reunion battle between Michael and Laurie, of course. I mean, I enjoyed it. It was slow building the first half, not much going on, but I appreciated it. Good times. Don't have a lot to say other than fun. Then comes Halloween Resurrection. And this one, I was not looking forward to because I had heard by many accounts that it was the worst Halloween sequel in the entire franchise. So I went in, bracing myself for the worst. I will say this, the first 15 minutes is focused on Laurie being held up in an institution because apparently she killed the wrong person at the end of H2O. They retconned Michael's death and made it so that Michael actually switched out of his clothes into something else in order to escape and walk away. I mean, I gotta give them props that they actually had the gall to kill Laurie Strode in this one, in the first 15 minutes no less. They probably should have spent the whole movie just killing her towards the end, but they couldn't do that because the rest of the movie is based in the Michael Myers house. It's in the Myers house, and a reality TV show is being filmed in there, and it's so cringy, it's so bad, it's so over the top and ridiculous with all the slasher cliches you could possibly ask for, and I was so entertained. I was not expecting to like watching this, but it was so dumb, it was so ridiculous that I was just like, alright, this is the dumbest premise for a Halloween movie I've ever heard of, but I'm along for this crazy ride. Let's see where this roller coaster takes us. And there's definitely a lot of cringy moments and everything like that. For me, it was a delightful train wreck that I could not look away from. If you're one of those people that have a guilty pleasure for really bad, but, you know, engaging movies like that, go for it. I forgot to mention about Michael's look in this one. The mask, it's okay. It's not, I don't like that it has a little bit too much contouring on the face, especially on the cheek area and stuff like that. It's not the worst I've seen, but it's still not great. What I noticed, it reminded me of something, and I couldn't put my finger on it until one point where Michael's just standing in the darkness for a while, standing still, with just a few features of the mask on the lower half of the face standing out. And I was just like, he looks kind of like Dracula. You know, especially with the pop collar and everything like that. It looks like Dracula Myers, which I guess is fitting because, again, he always shows up on Halloween. But, yeah, that's what it made me think of. And last but not least, we come to the two Rob Zombie Halloween remakes. Oh, dear God. They're bad. Okay, trying to make a backstory or history or reasoning behind Michael Myers just wasn't a good idea. It's like Everything that Loomis says about Michael in the first movie, maybe if you include the things he said in the second as well, is everything we needed to know about Michael. They turned Michael Myers into a mama's boy, which made me think of Jason Voorhees, and it's like Jason Voorhees is the mama's boy slasher, not Michael. Michael's never had an attachment. The only attachment that he's had throughout the franchise is just to killing his sister, and that's it. And Loomis is a complete asshole in these films. None of this works for Michael Myers, which is a shame because this origin story was actually a little interesting in the first movie. Like, this could have been an interesting take for a completely new slasher who just loses his mind one day, just snaps on his abusive family, and he gets sent to an institution, and he just eventually retreats into himself. He's obsessed with making masks. Like, this could have been an interesting killer that constantly changes his masks all the time. Instead of, like, this is a guy who loves to put on new masks. Why would he select just one, you know, for the rest of the series? It's only because he's got the name Michael Myers attached to him, you know? It's just, could have been interesting if this was a fully new IP, but no, they had to attach Halloween to this shit. Not to mention that they kind of really simplified the whole idea of a psychopath. They're like, it just sum her up in, oh, he had a bad childhood and he snapped. Like, that's insulting, you know? They made everyone so unlikable in this movie. Like, even Laurie, I wanted to slap her upside the head. Like, are you kidding me? She became the most ditzy, over-the-top. The conversations between all the three main girls was just, it's like, nobody talks like this to each other. Their recreations of the scenes from the original Halloween did not work. And here's why. The Michael that they build up in the Rob Zombie remake is somebody who snaps, who has fits of rage, who can't control himself when he gets angry, and he just loses it on everybody. He just throws a rampage and kills everybody in the vicinity when nothing can stop him. The Michael in the majority of the other films, especially the original, is the Michael that is calm, collected, almost robotic. There's no emotion. That's why he's called the Shape. That's why he wears that mask that has no emotion. That's why we rarely see his face or only see glimpses of it and things like that, because it's the implication that the mask is his real face, you know? And for the few amount of scenes they try to recreate, you know, portions of the original movie, it's Michael going back to acting as that robotic, almost like persona. And that would be great if we were dealing with a Michael that was like every of the other Michaels. But here, this is a completely different Michael. He throws tantrums. He gets angry when he kills people. Not that still cool, chilling calmness when he murders somebody. So it was actually out of character for this Michael to act that way. So it didn't work. This Michael was badass, and it was really cool to see him throw rages, actually. I didn't mind that, and the look. I will say this, the look of Michael in the Rob Zombie remake was badass as hell. It did look really good, which I gotta give him props for. It's just a shame it was wasted on this stinker of a remake. The second one, it gets really dumb. I don't know why, but Michael goes on this long quest to find his mother, who's an apparition. I don't know. And white horses bullshit. And he's just a big time hobo throughout the whole thing, although it was hilarious whenever he donned the mask, because it's like, oh, Michael Myers with the hood on. And hobo Michael is just like, freaking what? Pretty entertaining in that regard, but for the most part, most of the movie just felt like filler. Although it was really interesting when they had Loomis have his book interview on a talk show, and they actually had Chris Hardwick from Talking Dead on there, and Weird Al Yankovic. Like, really? They actually got those guys on here to do this? It's funny, but... And I ended up watching the director's cut first, which had the really, really dumb ending. In that ending, Michael actually says one word, and he just screams, "Die!" to Loomis, and I'm just like... This is the cardinal sin. Michael does not talk, ever. Do not do that. But then I watched the theatrical version, and that one worked a little bit better. It still was dumb, really dumb. That sequel was just a mess. So finally, this brings us to Halloween 2018. It was actually what spurred me to watch the other franchises, the slasher franchises, because I loved it that much. It's So good. Obviously, it's not a perfect film. It can have humor that doesn't really land at parts that's a little over the top and stuff like that. But this is the remake that the series desperately needed. Now, having watched all the other sequels in the franchise, the more I appreciate this film and the more I realize how badly it needed this. Like, Michael looks so good. The mask, amazing. It's, besides Halloween 1 and 2's mask, since that's technically the same mask, it's the second best mask in the franchise. Awesome. Looks so badass. Michael is so creepy and chilling in this. He acts like you would expect Michael Myers to act. Above all, they finally retcon Michael and Laurie being siblings, because I never saw them as siblings. I hate that plot point. I'm glad they got rid of it. And they made Michael's motives back to being a mystery. They made Michael's obsession with Laurie back to being a mystery. It's all the way it should be. He's really the shape. And I am utterly in love with this film. I only have slight nitpicks for this film, and that's just because I wanted more. I wanted more, essentially, of Michael and Laurie's showdown. I wanted it to be much longer than it was. And honestly, it would have been cool if she had multiple kinds of traps set up in her house. Like, how cool it would have been if she had set up traps to stop Michael and he just burst through all of them during the fight. That would have been amazing. But, I mean, I still like what we got. Just wish there was more one-on-one between them. I know there's a certain twist in this movie that a lot of people didn't like. For me, personally, it didn't bother me. I guess I could see why people didn't care for it. Personally, in my opinion, I think Michael would have gotten off the bus either way. Overall, love the 2018 film. I am so fucking excited for Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. Even though there's only gonna be 2 more sequels, it makes me sad because I'm just like, my dumb consumerist brain is like, more. When the trailer for Halloween Kills comes out, I think I'm gonna do a reaction video for it. I usually never do those kinds of things, but I'm so excited for that. I am so hyped for that. I think I'm gonna actually record a video for that. But yeah, 2018 film, fucking love it, and I'm looking forward to the rest. So that was my review of the Halloween franchise. It is definitely a roller coaster, a big up and down kind of thing. But I enjoyed it because, again, Michael's my favorite slasher, so even in some of these dumb scenarios, it's always good to see Michael again. Always good to see a guy in coveralls and a mask running around killing people. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and just please realize these are just my opinions and mine alone. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.